Hi folks, welcome back to another Football Manager season highlights from Football Manager 05. This season saw us decline in league position and points tally even further, and based on my plans for next season, I'm thinking that we might get relegated next season, and I'll explain why in this video. First of all, as you can see, we finished 8th. This was the 10th season that I've been playing this save, that I've been doing this career. So if I remember, I'll show some stats off from my career in that. But first of all, we're just going to talk about the league. As you can see, Dundee United won the league, which is pretty surprising because they came from just about nowhere. As you can see, in the 10 previous years, they hadn't really finished in the top half. They finished in the top half once, and now all of a sudden they won the league. So that was particularly surprising. Celtic finished second. Even more surprising, Rangers finished 7th. We were actually 7th. Past the last day of the season, we were 7th. Then Rangers, for some reason, had to play a game after everyone had finished their games, and they won it and overtook us to get 7th place. We did get 50 points, which is good, along with Rangers. Hibs got relegated. Apart from that, well, there's 3 new teams in the top 6 and 3 new teams in the bottom 6 compared to last season. Again, it's our lowest league position since our first season in the SPL, which is a bit of a shame. But as I said, we'll speak more about that in a bit. As you can see, we drew a ton of games. We won as many games as we lost. We scored fewer goals than we conceded for the first time in a long time. As you can see here, we've not had a minus goal difference since the 06-07 season. Thankfully, it was only a -1 goal difference. It wasn't too catastrophic. But, you know, it's still a bit of a shame when you just can't score goals. That was a running theme throughout the season. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at transfers for this season, and there was quite a few. First of all, transfers going out. Craig Ferguson was the only transfer going out. He was a centre midfielder who had been at the club for so long. He came through the youth system, the squad, but had been out on loan. He'd been out on loan no less than 4 times. He'd actually been out on loan to the Premier League once before and got a decent rating. So he'd done well, but his stats weren't that good. Maybe his stats don't matter. Maybe stats don't matter in this game. Maybe there's some underlying stat, like a hidden stat like consistency, which I know is a hidden stat. Maybe that's the only one that really matters in this game, and maybe he's actually really good. But either way, I sold him to St Pat's Athletic in Ireland. The other 2 outgoing transfers are youth players I released. Anyway, we've got, 800,000 spent on so many players. Most of these were actually youth players, believe it or not. I didn't really sign any main players. The only 2 first team players I signed was this chap, Sławomir Peszko, who is a Polish under-21 international, or he was an ex-Polish under-21 international. He was actually very disappointing. He got a pretty poor rating, as you can see, 6.838. He got 1 goal, but he didn't play much, purely because he was rubbish. The other player I signed was another striker, Chris Boyd. In real life, he's the highest scoring striker in Scotland or one of the highest scoring strikers for the last 10 years. But he was getting released by Wigan after playing for Kilmarnock and Rangers in Scotland. But yeah, I decided to sign him because I thought we need more firepower up front. The striking position is one that I've got a bit of a problem with. The other transfers were all youth players from Ireland or Northern Ireland or Wales. This one was the only one from Scotland. As you can see, a decent under-20s player. I'll just go through them all now. Their stats are decent. None of them are as good as David Lawler's, so David Lawler was one of a kind when I signed him. But I went through a lot of teams in Ireland, Wales, Northern Ireland, just looking for the best young players, and I decided to sign them all, or as many as I could anyway. There's a few that are still to come in because they were only 14 when I put a bid in for them, or when I offered them a contract. A lot of them are still 16, so they can't actually be offered a full professional contract. Unfortunately, a lot of them are strikers. As you can see, that's 2 strikers in a row now. This one's an attacking midfielder, and he's only 15. In fact, he was almost born in 99. But I decided to sign a lot of young players. These are regens. Fake players that the game regenerates as it goes along, and I want to try and get the best ones, so that's why I signed them. The fee is a compensation fee. You have to pay a compensation fee. You don't agree a fee, although I believe you can. It's just easier to offer them a contract and then pay the compensation up front. The main problem we had this season was goals. If you don't score, you can't win. It's as simple as that. I appreciate John Cook got 26 goals, but if you remember last season, he was injured for 4 months. Like, towards the back end of the season, he was injured for 4 months, which went over pre-season, but also came into this season slightly. So we had a bit of a spell where John Cook wasn't playing as much as he should have been, and so we often had very few goals going in. Jason Scotland, I just want to draw attention, he only got 1 goal. Unfortunately, according to his stats, he has declined a lot this season. He was unhappy at one point that he wasn't getting game time. He wasn't doing that well. His shot accuracy is non-existent. He only scored 1 goal, which I'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, he will be leaving at the end of the season. John Cook again came top scorer. Alan Anderson got 6. The problem is he got a hat-trick, so half of those goals came in 1 game. There was a few other strikers that just could not buy a goal. Michael Mitchell, his shot accuracy is also non-existent. He should be really good, which is unfortunate, but yeah, he just could not hit the back of the net. Our Polish striker only got a single goal. Chris Boyd only got a double. Paul Flaherty played 6 games, didn't get a goal, although to be fair his shot accuracy was marginally better. So there was all these factors about strikers not scoring. Who was the top performer? Top performer, as per usual, John Cook. Matthew Lewis did really well from the left wing. He played 28 games this season. I signed him up on a 5-year deal. As you can see, I can now offer contracts beyond the current date. So the current date I'm recording this is the 26th of October 2018, and I can now offer a contract that goes all the way to 2019. Usually I can only offer them 5 years in advance, and that's proven here. Lee Phillips, another recent signing, did very well, played 41 games. He did get injured a bit towards the end of the season. Stephen Brennan did alright. Zoltan Kiss, he played in 42 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, a man of the match award. He's unhappy because he's lost confidence in his manager's ability. I'll tell you why he's wrong in just a second. Who was our top assists? Yeah, top assists was Matthew Lewis. Top man of the matches was John Cook, although Lee Phillips was close behind, and then everyone else was just kind of like in the chasing pack. With regards to goalkeepers, I actually started the season playing Alan Manis, but then he fell out of favour, had a few bad performances, and then I played Graham Smith. And if you have a look at that, Alan Maris got 5 clean sheets in 17, Graham Smith got 15 clean sheets in 32. Big difference. There might be a reason for that, and I'll explain that in a second. As far as tactics go, I know I said I was going to use the default tactics, and to be fair, I actually did. I used only default tactics for the first half of the season, in fact, beyond the first half of the season. But as you'll see, we were doing really badly. I was mainly using, sometimes I used the 4-4-2 defensive, although because we couldn't score, I thought, well, if we don't concede, then we'll have to score less. So I used the 5-3-2 defensive quite a bit. The problem is you've got to find a good balance between having a strong defence like this and having a good attacking outlet. If I go all out attack in order to get goals, there's no guarantee I'll get goals, and there's a really high chance I'm going to concede a lot because I'll be exposed at the back. However, if I shut up shop like this, which might work, there's less of a chance I'm going to score because I don't have as many people going forward. That's just the way this game works. It works like that in real life too in theory, but even with this formation we had a ton of chances and our strikers were just awful. So about halfway through the season I thought, right, forget it. We're bottom of the league. Spoilers, we were bottom of the league. We were in trouble, and I was just like, right, 4-5-1, I know it works. I've used it for 10 years. Let's give it another go. And yeah, as you can tell by our finishing league position, 15 points clear of Hibs, who got relegated. It helped us out a lot. Quickly before I forget, First Division was won by Gretna, which is interesting because they were that team that in my Football Manager 2007 season, the only one I've released so far, I mentioned that they were, in real life at one point, a team that had a lot of money, attracted big players bigger than what they could, and they won a lot of divisions because of that. Well, in-game, they're into the top division, so we'll see how they do next season. Anyway, let's have a look at awards here. Player of the Year, no one won that. Team of the Year, we had a few players in. We had Lee Phillips and John Cook. Top scorer, once again, he came out of absolutely nowhere, but John Cook was top scorer again. I don't know why it's all my players that are top scorer. As you can see, it's been a Saints player every season for the last, what's that, like 7 or something? Manager of the Year, for some reason I came second. I mean, Jim Jeffries at Dundee United, he won the league, so he deserves the #1 spot, but I don't know how they can say I came second, unless it was because I was bottom of the league with no hope and then managed to save them. That's the only thing I can think of. Matthew Lewis, one of his goals, got second in goal of the season. Real quick, I never went over the monthly awards because my players had a degree of success in those. So Player of the Month, as you can see, John Cook got it for April. Young Player of the Month was won by 3 of my youngsters, Alan Anderson, David Lawler and Matthew Lewis all won that award. Mirror Manager of the Month, I got it on 2 different occasions, obviously months where my team excelled. I would now like to draw your attention to one of the biggest issues in the club at the minute, finance. Now, in previous years, finance has never been a problem. I've always really kept the salary under control. It's never gone way, way, way above the wage budget. I think one season it was quite high above the wage budget, but it's never been extortionately high above the wage budget. We were winning stuff, we were finishing high in the league, so we were getting a lot of prize money, we were doing alright in Europe. So the lack of those features really has crippled us as far as finance goes. We're down to 4 million. It's not that bad. Biggest reason for it is, as you can see, salary is, what's that? Is almost £30,000 more than what it should be. Expenditure this season is much higher. Well, it's higher than last season. So, how am I going to tackle this? Well, basically, a lot of these players have been at the club a long time. I once heard a theory. I can't remember when I read it, but in these early Football Manager games, I'm talking about 05, 06, 07, if a player stayed at your club a long time, they would become somewhat demotivated. And we can see maybe an example with Jason Scotland, albeit he is declining. He's 35 years old now, his physical stats have just gone out the window. He's been at our club for about 8 years. He's done very well, apart from this year. He's been there a long time. There's a chance he could have declined in his motivation to play well for the club. Other players that have been at the club a long time, Willie McLaren, he only got a 6.7 rating here, but he's been at the club for about 8 years. Whereas in contrast, players like Lee Phillips, Matthew Lewis, who've not been here that long, they've done pretty well. A school of thought that says you should just get rid of players every so often, even if they're doing well. This presents the best opportunity. We've got a lot of players going out of contract. Well, I say a lot of players. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 players going out of contract. All of them are key players in one way or another. I really fancy getting rid of a lot of people. David Lawler is an interesting one. So he's one of the best young players in the league. Possibly in Britain at the minute, so he's sought after. He's actually, I knew this was going to happen, but he's hoping to move to a bigger club. Like, it was obvious that was going to happen. The problem is he's on 13 grand a week. How did that happen? Well, a few years ago, I offered him max wage with max yearly wage rise and all that, and this is what happens. He's now on a stupid wage, one that I can't really afford. By next season, we might have a vastly different squad made up of mainly young players who have just been waiting to get into the first team. As you can see, we've got a lot of young players here, and we might supplement it with other signings. It's a squad in transition. I'm going to try and get rid of as many of these players as possible, even if it's on a free, although I would like to get a bit of a fee for them. Also, I did actually turn down a 5 million bid for David Lawler. It was from Celtic, who are obviously in our league. I was thinking about it. I was thinking to myself, 5 million is a lot of money. Like, in all my years playing Football Manager, I rarely ever get offered 5 million for a player, even a player as good as this. But I turned it down because I thought, you know what? He is just really, really good. He's worth more than that. If they'd offered 20 million, I might have accepted it, but he's just so good. We might have to sell him. We might sell him for less than 5 million, I don't know. So that's the plans for the team. The team is going to be changing a lot. Let's have a look at the fixtures then for this season. So starting off with our pre-season friendlies, we just played 2 lower league teams because we actually weren't in the UEFA Cup, we're in the Intertoto Cup. I didn't appreciate this. I completely forgot that even though Aberdeen won the Scotch Cup, it's not actually, if they get into Europe, it's not the league that benefits, but it's the runner-up of the Scotch Cup that benefits. So Motherwell got into the UEFA Cup ahead of us. But we got into the Eurovaz even still because the coefficient of Scotland was very strong. It's less strong this season, but as you can see, our first round game in the Eurovaz was actually the 3rd round, and we played Real Betis, and we pulled off a big shock. We managed to beat them 3-1 at home in a great performance. This was using the default tactics, so I thought, yes, this is going well. David Lawler netted a penalty after 15 minutes. Craig Young got in the act on 35. They pulled one back to get an away goal, but then Matthew Lewis netted on 90 minutes to give us a 2-goal advantage going into the away leg in Spain. Then in the away leg, Georgios Constanti netted a penalty to give us an away goal. Someone called Stephen Kerr that played for Betis, who's actually Scottish, equalised for Betis. I promise most of their players are better than this. In fact, we can go right now and have a look at their best player. 12 million, or 12.5 million, as you can see, a lot of their players are far, far better, so this was genuinely a big shock. They've also got someone called Lee Hardy playing for them. You find a lot of British players are playing abroad in this save, which is very weird, as proven by the fact that I bought Craig Young from an Israeli team. But anyway, so we got the 1-1 draw, 4-2 on aggregate. Excellent, through to the semi-finals of the Intertoto Cup. Unfortunately, the semi-finals took a turn for the worst. We played Slovan Liberec. They are from Czech Republic. They netted twice in the away leg. They netted twice in the first half, gave themselves a 2-goal advantage. We had no away goal, so things were looking bad. The home leg went really, really well for the first 35 minutes. Jason Scotland netted his final goal for the club. He will be leaving at the end of the season, if I haven't made that clear. Keith Keane also netted on 35 minutes. Then Alan Manis, the goalkeeper, got sent off. I don't even know why. It didn't show any highlights for it. It just said he got sent off. Alan Anderson, our striker, also got injured. They went and scored 3 goals and won the tie 5-2. So that was our Euro exploits over for another year. Now league duty started, and as you can see, for the first 4 games of the season, there was one major common factor, and that is we couldn't score. Dundee United, who were eventually champions, thrashed us 3-0. They're not that good in this game, but they still thrashed us 3-0. The following game was a 0-0 draw with Motherwell, which, as you can see, 14 shots, 5 on target. Pretty shambolic. We should have got more on target. I'm surprised we outplayed them away from home as well. We then lost 1-0 to Livingston. David Edwards scored the winner after just 12 minutes. Again, 11 shots on goal, 3 on target. We then drew 0-0 with Rangers, which I thought was a big shock. I think the biggest shock was the fact that David Lawler got sent off in 58 minutes, and we somehow held out. And we're using default tactics at this point, I should point out. But, however, Heart and Midlothian were put to the sword at Tynecastle, the team that we beat in last season's Scottish League Cup Final. We beat them again. Keith Keane scored the winner after 25 minutes. 2 wins out of 2, this time against Aberdeen, who were off form this season. Alan Anderson, this was as good as it got for him. He netted a hat-trick with goals on 15 minutes, 26 minutes and 38 minutes, and he scored these after Aberdeen had taken the lead originally. Part of the reason we won this was because John McLeod got sent off for Aberdeen and Sean Thornton missed a penalty. Oh yeah, Phil Cave got injured. I should point out that he played, he played 10 games last season. He played 44 this season. This is the most amount of games he's played, and he got an above 7 average rating. He did really, really well. That was the Aberdeen game. 3 wins out of 3. Fantastic. We beat Kilmarnock away. It was another comeback victory. Another victory courtesy of them going down to 10 men. Craig Young got our goal, our first goal in 21 minutes, and then Alan Anderson made it 4 goals in 2 games with a goal in 39 minutes to get us 3 points. So following that, we then had a League Cup game, and what else can I say but it's the League Cup. We played Elgin City, who are top of the bottom league in the professional system, and we were just absolutely hopeless. We were completely outplayed. As you can see, although we were away from home, they had 11 shots, they scored 3 goals. My keeper's rating wasn't the best. None of my players got rated that highly apart from Sean Thornton. I mean, it was a good game for the neutral, but our defending was shambolic. They could easily have won. Sean Thornton got our first goal on 9 minutes. Stephen Kelly equalised for them after the half-hour mark, but then Phil Cave popped up with the goods on 37 minutes. After half-time, our Polish striker Pezko put us 2 goals ahead. However, Elgin then reduced the deficit to just 1 on the hour mark. Chris Boyd netted his first goal for the club with 12 minutes remaining, but then 2 minutes later, Phil Reid got his second for Elgin, and the score finished 4-3. But for now, we can take a break from the League Cup and go back to winning. Oh wait, never mind. We drew 0-0 with Celtic. Not much to be said there, other than we should have won. We then beat Dunfermline Athletic 1-0, which was a good result because they finished they were high up in the league for most of the season. Alan Anderson got the winner, very late winner on 7 minutes. We did score a few late winners this season. We then lost 2-0 to Hibs. Now this was a pivotal moment. Hibs had been rubbish all season. They were bottom of the league. They did finish bottom of the league eventually, but up until this point they'd been bottom of the league. They hadn't won all season. They'd sacked their manager, and we were the first team they beat, and this was after a good run of form. As you can see, we'd won 4 games out of the last 5. They came and beat us with 2 first half goals. Kevin Miller is a former player coming back to haunt us. I love it when former players come back and score against us. We drew with Cali Thistle. David Lawler equalised just after the hour mark, which was vital for us to get a point. Although, yeah, I think we're lucky to get a point. Here we go. So to give you some context, this is the League Cup. Zoltan Kiss got sent off. I could have called it. They scored in extra time. Dumbarton were, well, they finished 5th in the 3rd division, which is the lowest professional division. Again, we got knocked out by a team from the lower divisions. You know how much I have gripes about this, right? But can I just put it into perspective, okay? Let's have a look at our fixtures from last season. So last season we won the League Cup. How many lower division teams did we play in our run to the final of the League Cup? Let's see. Kilmarnock, nope, they're top division. Inverness, nope, they're top division. Who's next? Aberdeen, nope, they're top division. And in the final we played Hearts. They're top division. 4 top tier opposition teams were beaten as we won the League Cup. And yet whenever we play lower league opposition, we always lose. I will probably do a separate video complaining about this. There you go. We lost to the lowest team in the lowest tier. You might get one inept performance, but you wouldn't get inept performances in every single League Cup. It was clear that what was going to happen. I could see it coming from a mile away. I mean, you don't play a 3rd division team at home with a strong lineup and have them get 13 shots, 5 on target. Admittedly, our strikers were bad, but it's coded in the game. I'm sorry. So next game was a 1-1 draw with Motherwell in the Premier League. John Cook equalised for us on 49 minutes to give us a share of the spoils. Admittedly, we probably should have won this game. Motherwell scored with their only shot on target. I love it when that happens. Their keeper got man of the match, which I guess is no surprise given the fact that we had 8 on target and only scored 1. Next up, second 1-1 draw in a row, 3rd in a row in the league. David Edwards scored again against us, but Aaron Lennon popped up with the goods on 56 minutes to give us a share of the points. Draw against Dundee United, 4th 1-1 draw in a row in the league. Phil Cave opened the scoring for us. And then Paul Heffernan scored. Let's not go there. Then we hit a bad run of form, unfortunately. Got creamed 4-0 by Rangers. Absolutely deserved it. We were rubbish. Admittedly, I think I changed to an attacking formation when 2-0 down, so that might have contributed to it. Anyway, we drew 1-1 yet again. See, the thing with the 1-1 draws is, basically, my defence was good, but not good enough to get a clean sheet. And my striking force was so bad that they couldn't score more than 1 goal. And so that's why I'm drawing 1-1 a lot. Chris Boyd netted a late winner, I thought, or 60 minutes to go winner. And then they went and equalised from the penalty spot. I could have seen it coming. Anyway, that was Chris Boyd's 2nd goal of the season and last goal of the season. Unfortunately, our next game wasn't a 1-1 draw. As you can see, we'd failed to score more than 1 goal, basically since the Elgin game. We scored more than 1 goal in this game. We went 2-0 up. John Cook scored 2 worldies on 17 minutes at the half-hour mark. But in the second half, Dunfermline came all out, scored 4 goals, and that continued a bad run of form. We lost 2-1 to Aberdeen. Alan Anderson got our only goal in that game. Following that, we lost 1-0 to Kilmarnock. We did draw 1-1 with Celtic, another 1-1 draw, albeit we actually surrendered 3 points as Paul Gallagher netted in the final minute. Aaron Lennon got our goal in this game. Next up, 1-1 draw with Dundee, who actually got relegated from the 2nd tier. They've not done so well. I'll show you their performances over the course of the save. So they were in the Premier League for the first 3 seasons, all good, but then they got relegated. They've been in the 1st division, but then they got relegated to the 2nd division, which is, they did get promoted at the first time of asking, but they've been relegated straight away, so they're not doing so well. We drew 1-1. This might seem embarrassing. It isn't. I played my youth team because I was so frustrated. I was just like, right, Dundee at home, Scotch Cup. I don't give 2 monkeys about the Scotch Cup right now. I'm just going to play my youth team. So I played a team full of under-19s, mainly under-19s, although there was a few reserve players in there. Craig Thompson, he was actually a fake player, as you can see. He's got nothing. He's got a personal area, personal tab, but he's got no other tabs here. He's one of the greyed out players. I had to play him. Admittedly, he did okay. He got a 7 rating. David Kennedy had a shocker at left back, and our goal was eventually scored from the penalty spot by Stuart Brown. They fortunately missed the penalty. Pivotal moment. I'll explain why later, but they did take the lead. We equalised. They missed a penalty. So we had to play a replay with Dundee. Great high scoring replay. Not. We didn't make it through to the next round. I did play a stronger team. It's because I saw we drew Queen of the South in the next round, and they're a 3rd tier team. So I thought, right, great opportunity to get to the quarterfinals of the Scotch Cup. I'm just going to go all out here. I did. John Cook got the winner. I guess all you need is a 1-0 win. It doesn't need to be any more. Back to same old in the league. We lost 2-1 to Hibernian. They netted twice, including Kevin Miller scoring against us again. Then we lost 2-1 to Cali Thistle. They scored a winner with 80 minutes to go. Matthew Lewis got our goal. Now this was a low moment, to be honest, because at this point, I will show you my league standings. Yes, we were bottom. We've been flirting with mid-table, really, for the whole season, and then all of a sudden, because of how tight it was at the bottom of the league, like I kid you not, there was 2 or 3 points separating the bottom 5 teams, including Rangers. The bottom 5 teams were all these teams minus Kilmarnock. They had a bad run of form at the end of the season, so they ended up finishing 9th, but Rangers, St Johnstone, Motherwell, Livingston, Hibs, we were all separated by about 2 or 3 points. Because of our bad run of form, we dropped from 9th down to bottom. So I was just thinking to myself, I was like, we're bottom of the league, our morale is awful. Like, I've done this before. I've had a bad run of form before, an even worse run of form before, and I've managed to salvage something. How am I going to do it this time? Basically, for the Inverness game, for the Cali Thistle game, I changed tactics. Hibs was the last game I used the default tactics. Cali Thistle, I went back to using my 4-5-1 that I'd used for almost my entire career. And it always worked, but we conceded with 18 minutes to go. It paid dividends next game, when we beat Motherwell 1-0. John Cook got our only goal, and we held out for a 1-0 away win. Unfortunately, we still haven't scored more than one goal, apart from the Dunfermline game, since the Elgin game. Scoring goals is a real issue. As you can see, it's mainly just 1s and 0s in there. Next game, we put that to bed, albeit this was against third tier Queen of the South in the Scottish Cup. It was a pretty easy win, apart from the fact John Cook missed a penalty, but our Algerian midfielder netted the opener in 25 minutes. John Cook then scored a penalty. Usually, he wouldn't be taking the second penalty, having missed the first one, but he took it and scored, and then Kirk Broadfoot scored 5 minutes later to earn us progress to the quarter-final. Following that, in the league, we got more than one goal for the first time since the Dunfermline game, a 2-0 win over Livingston. John Cook scored on 7 minutes, Sean Thornton doubled our advantage on 13 minutes. John Cook then missed a penalty, but we got the 3 points, and that's the main thing. So following that, 1-1 draw with Rangers, very disappointing since they netted, well, Joe Cole, the former England international, netted a point when 3 points was surrendered. It's not always a good point, but I'll take it. We then drew 1-1 with Dundee United. Gary O'Connor netted the opener for them. John Cook equalised 4 minutes later. We absolutely battered them. 14 shots, only 3 on target. Again, it tells you all you need to know about our strikers. I'm pretty sure it is the tactics. I just need to figure out a way to get more striking options, but it's really difficult. Third 1-1 draw in a row against Heart of Midlothian. Yep, 1-1 draws are again a feature. John Cook scored a penalty after 14 minutes. They missed the penalty, but then Matt Williams equalised on the hour mark. Then it was time for the Scotch Cup quarter-final, and it was performance of the season. We absolutely battered Celtic, or should I say John Cook absolutely battered Celtic. He saved his 4-goal performance for the Scottish Cup, and we beat Celtic. He scored on 29 minutes. He scored in 32 minutes, he scored in 52 minutes, and he scored in 88 minutes. Some of his goals were fantastic. He's got that in his locker, we know that. It's funny, he always does better from long-range shots compared to one-on-ones with the keeper or close-range chances. But we beat Celtic to make it to the last 4. Then it was back to league duty. We beat Aberdeen 4-2, which was a really important win. We actually took the lead through John Cook, who actually netted a hat-trick this game. But he got the opening goal. Nick Chadwick equalised, and then 4 minutes later, Kevin McNeil put Aberdeen ahead, so they were 2-1 ahead. Then after half-time, John Cook equalised, and it took until the 72nd minute before Keith Keane restored our advantage in the game. However, before that, David Lawler was sent off in 55 minutes, but even with 10 men, we managed to net through Keith Keane, and then John Cook made sure of victory on 90 minutes with a goal, and that completed his hat-trick. 7 goals for him in 2 games, which was a great return. So that was a good win against Aberdeen. Then we had 3 really bad games against Dunfermline, Kilmarnock and Celtic. A 1-0 defeat to Dunfermline, a 3-0 defeat to Kilmarnock, when they lost 1-0 to Celtic. The question is, would I rather have beaten them in the league or the cup? I think I would rather have beaten them in the cup, because that, put us through to the semi-final, gave us a chance of playing for a final place. Then after that, it was time for the semi-final, and it was great because we got drawn against Ross County, who are a first division team. It was also great because they had 2 players sent off, one of them in the 3rd minute. That really helped us. So Kevin Kelly was sent off, John Cook scored the resulting penalty. Then 12 minutes later, Kirk Broadfoot doubled their advantage. After half-time, Zoltan Kiss netted, and Kirk Broadfoot netted his 2nd of the game to put us 4-0 up and to put us into the final of the Scottish Cup. Our 2nd Scottish Cup final in this career, the 3rd National Cup final in this career. Good stuff all round. In the other semi-final, it was between Dunfermline and Kilmarnock, and Kilmarnock ended up winning, which wasn't so good because obviously our recent games against Kilmarnock haven't been so good. 3-0 loss there, 1-0 loss there. So 3 defeats on the bounce in the league. However, 2 4-0 wins in the Scottish Cup, resulting in progress to the final against Kilmarnock. We had 2 more games before the split. First game before the split, 4-0 victory over Hibs. John Cook netted a hat-trick on 7 minutes, on 9 minutes, and on 82 minutes. One of those was a penalty. And then Sean Thornton netted on 20 minutes as well. Hibs were one of our main relegation rivals, so this was what you would call a 6-pointer in effect. So this was a very important 3 points, very well deserved win. Next up, it was a 1-0 win over Cali Thistle, last game before the split. They were in the top half, so a win was very good, especially one that came on 88 minutes, 2 minutes to go. Chris Burke popped up with his only goal of the season, and what an important goal it was to get us 3 points against Cali. I think this was our first win against Cali in the league for about 2 years. Then it was time for the split, which obviously playing the bottom 6 meant it went a lot better than last year. Well, apart from this game. 0-0 draw against Hibs. I was actually okay with this because Hibs were behind us at this point. They weren't that far behind us, and I thought a draw, I'll take a draw against Hibs just to, you know, keep them a distance away from us in the race to survive in the league. Next up, we made up for it with a 2-0 win against Motherwell. The keeper had a howler, spilt 2 shots into the net. I remember this game very well. John Cook scored both of them. 8 minutes and 49 minutes were the timings of his goals. Next game was 3-2 win over Rangers. Very, very big win. Sean Thornton scored our first goal in 6 minutes. They equalised, but then John Cook scored 2 goals in 2 minutes to put us 3-1 up. Paul Clark did pull one back with 90 minutes to go, but we held out for a famous win at Ibrox. I think at this point we were just about safe, but we played Kilmarnock in a dress rehearsal for the Scotch Cup. It was boring. We deserved to win. 16 shots, 8 on target. Their keeper obviously got man of the match, David Marshall. But once again, our strikers are trash, so no surprise we drew that game. Then, last game of the season, 2-0 win over Livingston. Sean Thornton and Zoltan Kiss getting the goals there, and that put us onto 50 points for the season, which I think's okay. If you have a look at our previous performances, in our first season we got 30, second season 48, so this is our third worst points tally. It's okay, it's not awful. So it was time for the Scotch Cup Final. I do want to point out something I forgot to mention. Against Ross County, I was going to take a screenshot of this, but I was too engrossed in the game. I just thought, I just want to play. But in the Scotch Cup semi-final against County, I had almost my entire team on a booking. If they got booked once, they would miss the final. Miraculously, only 2 players got booked. Sean Thornton was one of the few that wasn't on a booking. David Murphy was, so he would miss the final. But again, we were helped out by the 2 red cards from County, which effectively made our life easy. So that takes us now to the final of the Scottish Cup, I should say. And we won it. Yeah, so we won it. It would have been a much more even game. Kilmarnock had a man sent off after just 24 minutes. David Clarkson also got injured in 48 minutes, and he's like their main striker, so they were down to 10 men for the majority of the game. Their usual formation was just completely blitzed, and Zoltan Kiss scored on 40 minutes. John Cook scored on 52 minutes, and then Matthew Lewis scored 6 minutes later to get us the win. Our second Scottish Cup win in this save, so that was good. And it also gave us a way back into Europe because, believe it or not, the coefficient of Scotland meant that 7th and 8th place no longer got into the Intertotal Cup. We could only get into Europe by finishing the top 6, which we didn't do, so we had to get into it via winning the Scottish Cup, so that was good. So back in the UEFA Cup, good stuff there. So it says Zoltan Kiss has lost confidence in his manager's ability, but I just want to point out, I saved us from certain relegation. Well, we weren't the worst team in the league, but I saved us from relegation, won us a cup. I mean, like, what more do you want? I mean, obviously a league victory would have been nice. Here's the messages after you win the Scottish Cup. Very positive messages. You can pause to read them if you want to read them. That is it. I'll show you my profile actually. This is the board confidence ability. The wage bill is very high, so that's one issue. Profile, my ability to handle pressure and ambition were a lot higher before this season, so I wonder if our bad performances really affected that. Our loyalty's at 2. I'm not sure why, but these stats are very, very close to how my stats usually are in Football Manager in these early versions. Media handling 20, no problem. The media like me, so I'm all good. Professionalism 12, I'm pretty professional, yeah. And temperament 10, so I mean just neutral, whatever. I got the preferred formation wrong. I barely play 4-4-2, but there you go. So personal. Let's have a look at this. Yep, that date of birth actually makes me 44 years old. I'm described as a media-friendly boss. My reputation is still only local, so I'm a bit annoyed about that. However, if we go to the Premier Division, let's have a look at the Arsenal manager, who is Gary Megson. You can see he's actually got a local reputation too, despite the fact he's managing one of the biggest teams in England. So I'm not sure what the deal is with the reputation in this version, but it's clearly different. Information then, what have I done? 10 years. 10 years since taking over the club. I actually saw, fun fact, the East Stirlingshire boss got sacked this season, the East Stirlingshire boss was called, Dennis Newell. He had been in charge. I knew his name because he was a real life manager of football of East Stirlingshire back in the day. He'd been manager since the start of the game, so he'd been in charge for just as long, if not longer than me. That was pretty interesting to witness. But these are our stats after 10 years at the club. 3,605 days. Okay, it's not quite 10 years. It will be 10 years come July or June or whenever the save was started. Number of awards won, 18. So that's like Manager of the Month, Manager of the Year awards. That is pretty good. I think that's what it means. Anyway, I won 18 of them. That's not bad. 81 players bought, 44 players sold. I think you'll find that's a common occurrence in football management. Buy more players than you'll necessarily sell. You'll release a lot of players that aren't playing well. Players bought, 7.5 million. Value of players sold, 4.6 million. I've only managed one team. Saints are the only team I've managed. Burkina Faso, I don't have a screenshot, but take my word for it, Burkina Faso offered me a job as national team manager this season, which I did turn down, like the China job, but we've still only managed St Johnstone. Number of league wins 1, obviously that was just the first division, but still an important one, because if we hadn't won that league, we wouldn't have been in the top division. Cup wins 3, which I'm very, very proud about. 2 Scotch Cups, 1 League Cup, not bad. Obviously 2 of them coming in the last 2 years. We've played 458 games, won 196 of them, lost 147, drawn 115, and I've scored 129 more goals than I've conceded. 1.5 per match, 1.2 per match. It's pretty realistic. There you can see some of our achievements over the last 10 years. This is the honours section for the club. We finished runners-up in 2011, 3rd place in 2010. Those were our highest league positions while I was in charge. We won the First Division in 2005. That was my victory there. Scotch Cup winners 2008, 2014, and League Cup winner in 2013. We've never lost a final. I kind of expected it to come against Kilmarnock, but then towards the run up to the final we played really well. Kilmarnock played really badly, so that kind of changed my opinion, and then they had a player sent off, so that made it easy. And as you can see, these are all our league positions while I was in charge, plus a few more. Obviously we finished first in the First Division. And then these are all our performances. It's kind of like a hill, isn't it? So we're going up the hill, we reach the summit, which isn't actually first place, and now we're going down the hill. We might get relegated next season. That's all I'm saying. We will see. I might end up getting rid of a lot of players. Oh yeah, we should look at records as well. See what records we've broken. The 2 records I'm really happy we broke was most league appearances for the club, which is still Ross Forsyth, and also Jason Scotland has got the most league goals with 166, which is fantastic. Paul Walsh is the youngest player ever to play for us. That was this season in the Scottish Cup. The oldest player is still Jim Weir, who's still a coach with us. You can see all the stats there. I don't need to read them out. Interestingly, our biggest average attendance was the season after we finished second, so obviously people were hyped about the team back then. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the video there. Sorry if it's a long one again. I was trying to keep it short, but obviously there's a lot to talk about. 8th place finish, 50 points, Scotch Cup win. It wasn't a bad season in the end. Obviously our shortcomings have been made known. The team could change a lot. We could get relegated next year. Next year will be our 10th year in the top flight of the league, and obviously our 11th in this career. So I do plan on playing that. I'm excited to play that. We will see what it brings. Also, Jason Scott will be leaving. I am planning on making a montage of every single goal he scored, like every single competitive goal he scored for us. I'm not sure how I'll do it, if I'll make it an over edit or if I'll just show the goals. I'm not sure. Look out for that when it comes out. But till next time, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you when I see you.